In today's fast-paced world, we could all use a little more speed. But if you're a sloth, moving at breakneck speed is simply not an option. Welcome to our channel. And today let's find out what it takes to be the world's slowest mammal. How do sloths stay up in the trees without getting tired? Sloths can remain suspended in trees for weeks because they have no need to hurry. In fact, they don't need to get down from the trees at all unless they need to poop. They have adapted to life in the trees so well that they spend 95% of their lives hanging upside down. But how do they hang upside down without getting tired? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Sloths have long, curved claws that help them grip branches easily. When they hang from branches, their claws dig into the bark of the tree and their furry bodies fill in the gaps, creating a snug fit. This makes it easy for them to stay in one position for a long time without getting tired. Plus, their muscles are specially adapted to be able to hang upside down without any trouble. So when you see a sloth hanging from a tree, just know that they are completely comfortable and relaxed. Just don't disturb them. Why do sloths look a little green? Sloths move so slowly that algae actually grow on their fur. That's right, these laid-back tree dwellers are basically walking ecosystems. Their slow movement, combined with the warm, humid environment of the rainforest, creates the perfect conditions for algae to thrive. But it's not just a weird side effect of being slow, it actually helps them. The greenish tint provides camouflage, helping sloths blend in with the leaves and avoid predators. So while they're not winning any races, sloths have mastered the art of low-energy survival, with built-in nature's camouflage to boot. How long can a sloth live? Sloths typically live between 20 and 30 years in the wild, but some have been known to live up to 40 years in captivity. This is likely due to their slow metabolism and overall chill attitude. Just kidding. It's because they eat a lot of leaves and have a low-calorie diet. As a result, they don't require a lot of energy to survive and can live relatively long lives. While they may not be the most exciting creatures in the animal kingdom, sloths certainly know how to live a long life. What is a sloth's favorite food? One of a sloth's favorite foods is the leaves of the cecropia tree. These leaves are high in nutrients and water content, making them an ideal food source for sloths. However, there is a catch. Sloths can only eat the new growth on the tree. The older leaves are too tough and fibrous for their specialized digestive system. As a result, sloths spend much of their time searching for the perfect leaves to eat. And because their metabolism is so slow, they can go for long periods of time without eating. When they do eat, however, they make sure to eat their fill. After all, they need to conserve their energy for the rest of the day. Do sloths actually get tired of hanging upside down? You might think that hanging upside down all day, every day would get old pretty quickly, but for sloths, it's just another Tuesday. That's because sloths have evolved to live in trees, and hanging upside down is simply part of their everyday life. In fact, they are so well adapted to this lifestyle that their internal organs are even attached differently than other mammals to help them stay upright. Plus, as we mentioned before, their claws are specially designed for gripping branches. All of this means that sloths don't really get tired of hanging upside down. In fact, they are perfectly happy spending their days snoozing in the trees with the wind blowing through their fur. Why do sloths move so slowly? If you've ever seen a sloth in action, you know that these little guys move slower than molasses in January. But there's a reason for their sluggishness. You see, sloths eat a lot of leaves, and leaves don't exactly provide a ton of calories. As a result, sloths need to conserve their energy to make sure they have enough to last the day. Moving slowly helps them do this. It also helps that sloths are excellent at hanging upside down, since that takes far less energy than moving around on the ground. So while you might think sloths are lazy, their slow movements are actually an essential part of their survival strategy. How much do sloths sleep? Sloths are well known for their love of naps. In fact, they sleep up to 20 hours a day. There are two main reasons for this. First, sloths have a slow metabolism, which means they don't need a lot of energy to survive. As a result, they don't need to expend much energy, so they can spend most of their time sleeping. Second, sloths are often targeted by predators, so sleeping helps them avoid being spotted. By sleeping during the day, they are less likely to be seen by jaguars, harpy eagles, or other predators. Plus, when you're hanging upside down 24/7, it's hard to stay awake. Overall, sloths have mastered the art of the nap, and it seems to be working well for them. What are sloths' natural enemies? Sloths have few natural enemies due to their slow speed and awkward movements. However, they are still at risk of being preyed upon by certain animals. Jaguars, anacondas, and harpy eagles are among the few animals that are capable of catching and eating sloths. Even humans can pose a threat to sloths, either by hunting them for their fur or by destroying their habitat. Because of these threats, sloths have evolved to be very cautious animals. They are active mainly at night and spend most of their time in trees where they are difficult to access. Additionally, sloths are excellent swimmers and can escape predators by retreating to water. While they may not be the most nimble or agile creatures, sloths have developed some impressive survival skills. Are sloths afraid of humans? No, sloths are generally not afraid of humans. In fact, they are usually curious about us and will approach us if we are in their territory. However, it's important to remember that sloths are wild animals and should be treated with caution. Even though they may seem cute and cuddly, they have sharp claws and teeth that they will use to defend themselves if they feel threatened. Additionally, sloths can carry diseases that are harmful to humans. As a result, it's best to admire these amazing creatures from a distance and let them live their slow-paced lives in peace. How often do sloths come down from trees? Sloths are well adapted for life in the trees and generally only come down once a week to defecate. This is because their digestive system is very slow and it takes about a month for food to pass through their body. Once a sloth comes down from a tree to poop, they are vulnerable to predators. However, they have developed some adaptations to help them survive. For example, sloths can hold their breath underwater for up to 40 minutes, which allows them to escape predators by retreating to water. Additionally, sloths have a powerful grip and rarely fall from trees, which would alert predators to their presence. Despite these adaptations, coming down from trees is a risky behavior for sloths, and they take great care to minimize their exposure to danger. How long does it take for a sloth to digest its food? As we all know, digestion is a slow process for sloths. It can take up to a month for food to pass through their digestive system. This is because sloths have a special adaptation that allows them to digest the tough cellulose found in the leaves they eat. However, this process requires a lot of time and energy. Sloths are already slow-moving creatures, and their digestive process slows them down even more. But hey, if it works for them, who are we to judge? Just don't expect them to move any faster. How do sloths poop? Sloths are well known for their unique and rather stinky pooping habits. Because they spend 95% of their lives hanging upside down in trees, they have to come down once a week to poop. To do this, they carefully climb down a tree using their long claws, and then proceed to relieve themselves on the forest floor. It's not an elegant process, but it's necessary for their health. Once they're done, they head back up the tree and get on with the rest of their day. And while we might find sloths' pooping habits amusing, it's important to remember that they are wild animals and should be treated with respect. What's the weirdest thing about sloths? The weirdest thing about sloths is how their internal organs are arranged. Since they spend their lives hanging upside down, their organs are attached to their bodies in a way that makes sense for that lifestyle. For example, their stomachs are located near their heads, which makes it easier for them to digest their food, and their spines are curved, which helps them keep their balance. This is very different from other mammals whose organs are typically arranged in a more traditional way. So if you ever see a sloth hanging upside down, just remember that their weird internal organs are helping them out in ways that you can't even imagine. Sloths are fascinating creatures that are perfectly adapted to their environment. From their slow metabolism to their strange internal organs, these animals are truly one of a kind. So the next time you see a sloth, take a moment to appreciate the amazing animal that it is. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, and catch you next time.